Preparing for the one, what to do if it happens. A forewarned weather special brought to you by Alpha Insurance.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining us for our look at the 2014 hurricane season. I'm Nate Harrington, joined by Chris Havley and Oscar Fan. Over the next half hour, we'll be covering a lot of ground.
We'll take you all over the area, from the Florida Panhandle and Gulf Coast to the middle of the Wiregrass, showing you how to get prepared before the storm to what happens after it moves out.
You know, we've also got to look back at those storms that really had an impact on our area and the lessons we can learn from each of those storms. But of course, the one question everyone has, Nate and Chris, is what does this season have in store for us?
Well, that's the question we're going to try to answer right off the bat here. The National Hurricane Center has released its outlook for the 2014 hurricane season. They did that on May 22nd. They call for 8 to 13 named storms, 3 to 6 hurricanes, and 1 to 2 major hurricanes. Now, this range falls well below our seasonal averages. We should see about 11 to 12 named storms, 6 hurricanes, and 2 to 3 major hurricanes. Now, this forecast signifies about a 90% chance of the season being at or below normal activity. Now, there's also a group from Colorado State University that does the same sort of forecast. They call for about 10 named storms, 4 hurricanes and 1 major hurricane. And you can see that falls well below that average. And these forecast numbers have come up slightly. They came out with a forecast back in April, but have changed theirs by about a number or 2 in each one of these categories. Now, there's some severe limitations to these forecasts, but the reasoning behind the hurricane outlook being below average is the El Nino effect. This is the major driver for this year's season. El Nino increases wind shear in the Atlantic, and that limits storm development and strengthening. Cooler than normal Atlantic sea surface temperatures also have been noticed, but those have started to warm up in recent weeks, but they still remain below average, and that's going to be another critical part of the forecast for this year. Now, the forecast limits, there's 3 biggies, based solely on statistics and climatology, so nothing really that we have hard and fast evidence of yet to base our 2014 hurricane season on. The Atlantic also has very large year-to-year variability, and a seasonal forecast does not predict landfalling hurricanes or locations. So that's something we all have to keep in mind. So preparedness is the key. And even though it might be a slow forecasted season, it only takes one to make it a memorable season where you are. Oscar?
Appreciate it, Nate. Well, when it comes to hurricanes, as you would imagine, Florida has plenty of experience. But you know, lately hurricanes have been scarce in the Panhandle. However, that doesn't keep first responders from taking a proactive approach to the upcoming hurricane season. News 4's Allison Mechanic spoke with county officials and explains how they're preparing for the big one.
It only takes one storm. You know, it might be a mild season for the nation as a whole, but if that one storm comes towards Walton County, then it's a bad season for us.
Summertime in Walton County and Bay County mean blue skies, green water, and hot temperatures. But since emergency management officials do not know when the one is going to hit, they make sure they're ready even before skies turn gray.
Stay prepared year-round for whatever may come our way. Obviously, at the beginning of hurricane season, we do step up our efforts a little bit.
The last hurricane to affect Walton and Bay County was Hurricane Katrina, but Dennis and Ivan also made their mark.
We were located downtown Panama City, right on the water, and actually had our EOC flood several times. It's important to be able to continue operations after a disaster, and that's what makes this building so significant.
Bay County's new state-of-the-art facility has everything emergency management officials need to monitor storms and keep residents updated. But although the building's technology is impressive, officials are the first to admit that it's not always reliable.
I had an instructor tell me one time that she always liked to use a whiteboard because she'd never had one that crashed on her. It's important to have the technology, but it's also important to know the old-fashioned way of doing things.
The double-edged sword of technology is that everyone thinks they're a meteorologist now, and they want to make their own predictions as to the storm and how bad it's going to be.
If an evacuation is issued, residents' cooperation is key.
We have to pull the trigger on an evacuation days ahead to get people out in order to make that happen before the winds get up high. And so that's a hard thing for us because the skies are still blue in the water screen. People are like, you're making us leave, what?
That warning also goes for residents located inland.
In Ivan, we had several hurricane-spawned tornadoes that killed several people in this area. But most of the folks that were killed from the effects of that storm were killed inland.
And having all the technology in the world means nothing if you're not prepared. Allison Mechanic, WTVY News 4.
And both Walton and Bay counties have text alerts that residents could sign up for. And you can find information how to sign up for that on our web channel, WTVY.com. Chris?
Of all the dangers that come with a landfalling tropical system, the one that many people forget about is always the most deadly. And for everyone along the coast, storm surge is something we should never take lightly. Damaging winds, torrential rain, and even tornadoes. All are life-threatening elements of tropical storms and hurricanes. But most devastating and historically deadly of all is the storm surge.
Whatever reason in this nation, when people hear hurricanes, they think wind first. They think, what category is it on the Saffir-Simpson scale? They think all these other things. But it's water that's killing people. 3 out of 4 of the lives lost in hurricanes historically are coming from drowning.
Storm surge is a rise in the water level caused mostly by the strong winds of a hurricane pushing ocean water on shore. This rise in water depends on many factors, but can reach upwards of 20 feet above tide levels, causing severe flooding. Add to that the battering effect of ocean waves, storm surge can easily destroy homes and other structures. With much of the Gulf Coast lying less than 10 feet above sea level, people along the coast are very vulnerable to the effects of storm surge. A factor that could enhance the flooding effects of storm surge this year is the recent heavy rain and flooding along our panhandle counties.
What residents need to be aware of is the water table is extremely high this year. We've had so much water that it doesn't take much more for it to be a considerable flood. And so if we get a storm in, whether it's something as mild as a tropical storm, could cause us a great deal of problems in a flooding situation.
County officials are helping to prepare the public for hurricane season by providing information on the vulnerability of a particular area to storm surge.
A person can go to the county website and look at the GIS data and see what surge zone they're in, and gives them a better idea of when they need to evacuate or if they can stay and ride out the storm.
And a reminder that even strong tropical storms or weaker hurricanes can produce fairly severe storm surge. The classification of a storm isn't always a precise indicator of surge intensity. And when storms form, the National Hurricane Center gives them a name. Here's a list of this year's names as we head to break.